Hello and welcome to the Blues Kind Show. Today's episode is a bonus. I promised at the end of my last video that I would do a trade update for my next video, but that'll come later this week, I promise. But I thought it'd be a darn shame not to celebrate the emphatic win over the Dockers, as well as acknowledging the roller coaster that we have been on together as a Carlton community. Let's get into it. Our Blues ran out victors over the ladder-leading Fremantle Dockers, 119 points to 82. I won't spend too long on the game itself, but to be honest, I went into yesterday's game just hoping for a good performance. Gosh knows I was not expecting that. I don't think anyone was. But what a barnstorming way to go into the finals. My favourite part of the game was that it was on the back of one of the whole of team performances that we've got so used to seeing under Fraser. While I thought two of our best three performers were Jagger and Walsh, with guys like Cripps also having an excellent game, most of our prominent players I think happened to be some of the lesser lights. So I wanted to give them some shine today. Frankie Evans had 11 touches, 5 goals, 2 tackles and 4 marks in the game against Fremantle. Not only did he go at 90% by foot, he also directly contributed 6 goals, 5 of his own, as well as another goal assist. 9 of his 11 touches were score involvements. Talk about bang for buck. Given we got this guy on the absolute cheap at the start of last season and people mocked us, Kane Corns, and said that he wouldn't be able to fill a spot on an AFL list, called him a list clogger. Kane Corns, well, Frankie is now one of the informed small forwards in the competition. I mean, I liked the signing originally. I didn't see this coming. Good work, big fella. Brodie Kemp, who I'm going to talk about a bunch in this video, had 13 touches, 3 goals, 3 tackles, 5 marks, 8 score involvements, with 2 of the 8 being direct goal assists. So 13 touches for 5 direct involvements in goal. Once again, a very well-rounded performance from the bloke who now has his kicking boots on. Good job, Kempy. Just to be clear, I still like this photo of Ollie with Elijah, so we're sticking with it. Ollie Hollands chimed in with 15 touches, 5 marks, a really nice goal on his right, and possibly the tackle of the year. They should definitely have that as an award, and frankly, I'd think he'd win it for 2026 with a 70-metre chase down on Pat Voss. My favourite part of the highlight, all the Blues boys getting stuck into Pat Voss after he bottled the opportunity. Anyway, we don't know what's going to happen with Ollie or Elijah for that matter, but the level of effort that he gave shows why the young bloke gets to be in the competition. Good on you, mate. Mark Pitnet arguably won the ruck matchup, I'd say that he did, against one of the best rucks in the league in Luke Jackson. Pitto had more touches and clearances than Luke Jackson while having only 1 fewer contested possessions, 8 versus 9. Jackson kicked a goal, and while inaccuracy went in Pitto's favour, with Jacko missing another 2 opportunities, Pitto continued his wonderful run at the end of the season with a scalp over a guy who's probably going to be in the All-Australian team. Good work, big fella. Strength! And finally, this guy is no role player, but I wanted to give some shine to Jacob Wiedering. I can be hard on Jacob sometimes, and we all know my views on whether or not we should trade him, but I thought he was great yesterday. Josh Tracy kicked 3 goals but didn't have his normal influence, especially with 2 of them not really being remotely connected to Wieders. So I thought that was a wonderful job by Jacob to slow down the most influential forward for the Dockers. Wieders was additionally well supported by our midfielders, muddying the supply to Josh Tracy and shows the value of Wiedering if you can keep it being a long down the line type game. Jacob finished with 14 touches, 10 marks and went at 100% disposal efficiency. After a few weeks back, he put together his best performance in a long time, so well done, Wieders. I'll leave the Freo performance there, but suffice to say, a wonderful, full team effort. I don't think anyone had a down game, and it's going to be some selection crunches with Nick Haynes and Will Hayward very likely to be back for our final versus the D's next week. We'll see what they decide on at the selection table. I now wanted to move on to a review of Carlton's home and away season altogether. Obviously, under Voss, we started 1-8 before Fraser decided to go 11-2-1 down the stretch, giving us a total season record of 12 wins, 10 losses, and 1 draw. But for me, that's not where the analysis finishes, because despite going 4-6-1 against teams that have finished in the top 10 for the year, so, 4 wins from 11 games against teams in the top 10. Under Fraser, we went 4 wins, 2 losses, and a draw against teams in the top 10. And it stacks up really well against the rest of the competition and the other teams that are going to be in the finals with us. As I've just touched on, only Fremantle has a better overall winning percentage against teams in the top 10 outside of Carlton under Josh Fraser. Carlton under Josh Fraser has a better winning percentage against top 10 teams than every other team in the league, including beating Fremantle, obviously, yesterday, and the Brisbane Lions. As an aside, who would have thought that our 2 biggest percentage boosters for the year would come against the 2 teams favoured to make the grand final? What this says to me is that we are very competitive with teams that we will now need to beat. I'm not saying the fairy tale run is coming, but I am saying that I think we should enter into the game against Melbourne as the favourites. And if we do beat them, I believe, based on looking at the grand final bracket, that we will then play the 5th place team, which, if the Hawks beat the Eagles today, but not by like 100 points, by the time of watching you might already know the outcome, our most likely opponent, if we get past the D's, would then be the Cats. That should hold no fear for us. But just to get even further ahead of ourselves, if we beat the Cats, then we will face the loser of the 1 and 4 matchup, which at this stage is looking like it's going to be Freo and Hawks. That means we probably would play the Hawks in Melbourne. If I'm daring to dream, and I'm not just yet, but, hypotheticals are always fun, we would love it if we could do some damage in the finals. And I could see us getting past the wild card against the D's. I could see us getting past the Cats if that is who we face in the first round of the final 8. And then finally getting the Hawks in a semi. I know they beat us recently, but that was monsoonal conditions. And I think on a drier deck, with them being a little bit out of form and us having beaten the 2 ladder leaders, things might start looking a bit different. However, to finish off the video, I wanted to look at some individual performances by highlighting some of our players' wonderful seasons across the board. I'm going to start with the top end players on the list, thinking about who I think could make the All-Australian team. And following on from that, look at some smokies as well as some guys that I predicted to be breakout candidates and seeing how their seasons sort of stacked up. But I'm going to keep it positive. So any prediction I got wrong, I'm not covering it. Not because I got it wrong. It's because I don't want to, kick anyone while they're down. And I'm sure you'll understand why in a brief moment. But starting off with the original Batman and Robin for the Carlton Blues in Cripper, who averaged 26.5 touches a game, 5 tackles a game, and was second in the league for clearances, as well as adding 14 goals. I think that, our fearless leader is our best chance to get into the All-Australian team out of any of our players, but I also think that Sam Walsh should have a real opportunity to get into the side. He's averaging a few more touches a game than Cripper, an extra 2 at 28.7 touches a game, with a much more splendid game of inside and outside. He added 8 goals for the year, which is his second best performance, for any given season, but he still has games to go, so could and should add to that tally. In addition to that, I want to look at a couple of guys who I think are smokies. Ollie Florence, where I want to start. I think people sleep on him because of how cheaply he came from Sydney and how diminished his value was because of Sydney dropping him last year. This guy has played every single game for us. He is the 7th highest rated general defender. The way the stats are kept, there's general defenders and then key defenders. So if you scratch out the tall blokes, he's the 7th best according to AFL ratings of the remainder. He averaged 441 metres gained from 22.5 touches a game, while being elite for pressure acts and intercept possessions for a general defender. I think we got him for a future third. My memory's telling me either a third from last year's draft or a future third, meaning one from this year's draft. That is insane value for a guy who is going to hold down the halfback position probably for the next 4 seasons after this one, so 5 in total. Really good trade, and I think he should definitely be considered for the 46-man squad. I'm going there. Let's get excited. I don't remember a key defender having as good of a first year as Harry Dean. I'm sure someone can correct me, but a lot of the examples I hear are Matthew Pavlich, it was his second season. James Frawley, it was his second season. In his first season, he kept the following guys to a goal or less: Mitch Georgiadis, Nate Caddy, Aaron Cadman, Jake Waterman, Mitch Lewis, and Logan Morris. There were others, but I thought that was a good sort of array of names to show how dominant he has been as a key defender as a first-year player. Now, the fact he's a first-year player shouldn't come into the equation. If we're just figuring out who the best couple of key defenders in the league were, 10 years not relevant, but I just wanted to add it in just for context of how impressive this guy's season has been. I doubt he'll make the final team, and I'm sure we can all understand why that's the case. They want to give it to someone like Callum Wilkie, who's getting 1 billion touches a game and can't keep anyone goalless. We saw how he did against the old Dark Navies the other week. But I do think that Harry Dean has a very realistic chance of making the 46-man squad. And if he did, I wonder if that's the first time a key defender has made the 46-man squad, apart from someone maybe like Tom Stewart, who came into the league as a 25-year-old. Fabulous year, Harry Dean. You will get there to the final dance in short order, I'm sure. I'd imagine as soon as 2027, his fortunes with regard to All-Australian selection should be pretty franked. And I just wanted to give this guy an honourable mention. I don't think he will make the squad, but that is only because of how congested the All-Australian team is for midfield slots. But with 25 touches a game and 8 goals in his first season, Jagger would have to be mentioned by selectors. Again, I don't think he'll even make the squad in the end, but I do expect him to threaten for a spot in the actual team as soon as next year. Great work, Jags. Wonderful first year after missing out all of last year due to injury. The first player I want to touch on, and you can see the names in the top left corner of the tables that I'll present briefly, is Brodie Kemp. Despite the obvious flaw of his accuracy when taking set shots, everything else that he does is that of a quality modern key forward. I'm not suggesting this guy could be a number 1 banana, but in terms of being a very strong 2 or 3, I think that he has demonstrated the capacity to do that, particularly if he can improve his set shot goal kicking in the off-season. If he had kicked accurately this year, while kicking 36 goals, which is a career high, he probably would have kicked 45 across the entire season. But I'm not here to take away anything from him, and I'm certainly not here to throw any mud on him. Because he has had such a wonderful improvement in his game. Not just in terms of goals, where he did improve his per-game output, But in addition to that, he's continued his strong pressure as a key forward. I know some people don't value that. I really do, because it demonstrates a whole of team ethos. In addition, he increased his marks and scoring involvements from the 2025 season, which is the only other year he played as a key forward, and therefore we don't have a lot to compare it to. But with another off season to refine his skills and maybe another tool coming for support, we've heard about Joel Amadi, I could see Brodie taking another step in 2027. But for 2026, he's had his best season to date for the club by, I think, quite a margin, and is still leading our goal kicking, albeit we do have finals to come. Overall, we should be wrapped with his development, and after so many years of injury interruption, he's finally been able to put a full season together, and I think we have seen a really strong output. So well done, Brodie. Moving on next to a guy who I said I was going to keep mentioning in Frankie Evans. This guy has seen some huge improvements in his game, and I honestly think it's just due to continuity, going from 10 games last year up to 21 games this year. He's improved in terms of his disposal output, his tackle output, score involvements, and pressure acts, where he's elite as far as small forwards go. So a wonderful turn up there. I do want to note the decrease in goals per game, obviously not overall for a whole season, but I probably think that that is down to small sample size with having only played 10 games last season. So yeah, there's a little bit of a decrease in terms of the per game output, but I think you could say pretty comfortably, if you have a pressure forward giving you a goal a game, 3.5 tackles a game, 5.5 score involvements per game, and elite for pressure acts overall, you can live with any decrease in terms of his goals from the year before. If he turns up next year and gives us his 2026 stats again, he is clearly broken out with comparison to 2025 and will have established himself as one of the most consistent and prolific small forwards in the comp when it comes to a holistic look at the stats that are valuable for his position. Well done, Mr. The Tank. Him with Taylor Byrne is now forming a great, and I mean great, forward pocket tandem. Both do it a bit differently to each other. One's got a bit more burst. I really like Frankie's vision and ability to spot up targets, while, Burner has extra pace to burn, and I think he'll be able to add some dance steps to his future. So it's going to be exciting to see what they can do together. And finally, the big moo. This is the third and final of the breakout contenders that I want to touch on today. He has more modest increases in his statistical outputs, with the exception of spoils, where, jumping up to 33% is a wonderful result. But in growing into his role, I think he is so much more than the numbers that he puts on the stat sheet. He is so versatile. Matching up on form smalls in the competition, such as Charlie Cameron in the most recent Brisbane game, as well as a perennial All-Australian in Jeremy Cameron. So he's doing it on talls, he's doing it on smalls. So I liken him to my favourite player from the Richmond Tigers dynasty, and that is Nick Vlaston. He plays any role needed in the background. He's super well-rounded, really good mark, really good kick, has a bit of pace, tackles well, good athletic profile, good skills, and frankly, he very rarely lets us down anymore. I'm shattered that we've only signed this guy to the end of 2028. I kind of hope that we can get a 5-year deal on him in a hurry, because I want him to hang around for the longest time. Well done, Moo. But that is going to do it for today's bonus episode. Like I mentioned, I'll be tossing another episode in later this week, which will be the trade recap for August. If you like what I'm doing, please give me a like and a subscribe. If you want to engage, push back, agree, disagree, give me some ideas, please leave a comment. If you want to get in contact, you can reach me at the email address blueskindshow@gmail.com. Thank you everyone for watching, and as always, go Blues!